Nico pulls into his driveway in a brand new BMW 3 Series. Black paint, tan leather interior. The new car smell is still hanging in the air. That costs about $650 a month on a 36-month lease. His neighbor across the street is getting out of a 2014 Toyota Camry beige, 140,000 miles. A dent in the rear bumper. That's been there since 2018. Nico looks at the Toyota. He feels good. He feels like he's winning. And in that moment, he is absolutely certain that he is the one who has his life together. He is wrong. 10 years later, Nico will have spent over $95,000 on lease payments, lease end fees, and higher insurance premiums. And he will own nothing. The neighbor across the street will have invested the difference and added somewhere around $130,000 to his net worth in a single decade. Just from the car decision, and when you zoom out to 20 years, the gap becomes a canyon that most people cannot believe until they see the math themselves. My name is Thomas. I've spent over 40 years in finance. I have watched smart, educated, high-earning people destroy their net worth one car lease, and I have watched people who you would never notice in a parking lot quietly build million-dollar portfolios while driving the most forgettable. The interesting thing, and this is what nobody tells you, is that after about year 5, the guy in the Toyota starts looking richer, not poorer, and people around him can feel it before they can explain it. There is a calmness, a looseness in his shoulders. He doesn't check his bank account before ordering appetizers. His wife doesn't tense up when the water heater breaks. The guy in the BMW has doing math in his head at the restaurant. Hez wondering whether he can stretch the lease another 6 months. Hez refreshing his credit score app at 2 in the morning. This is not a story about cars. This is a story about and the numbers are far worse than most people realize. Let me show you the math. Nico's BMW 3 Series has an MSRP of about $49,000. He didn't pay that, he leased it. A typical 36-month lease on this car in 2026 runs around $650 a month with a few thousand down at signing. Add in higher insurance because it's a luxury vehicle, call it $200 more per month than a Toyota. Add in lease and disposition fees, excess wear and tear, charges that the dealer always finds, and the fact that Nico rolls negative equity from his previous lease into this one across a full decade. 3 lease cycles. Nico will spend somewhere in the neighborhood of $95,000 just to have a car to drive. And at the end of those 10 years, Nico has no car. He has to lease another one or buy something. He has zero equity. The money is gone. Now let's look at Zen. Zen bought his 2014 Toyota Camry, used in 2016. He paid $15,000 cash. He has driven it for a decade. His annual maintenance oil changes, tires, the occasional brake job averages about $600 a year. His insurance is cheaper by roughly $200 a month compared to a luxury lease. Over 10 years, Zen's total car costs come to about $21,000. And at the end of those 10 years, the car is still worth maybe $4,000 or $5,000 if he sells it. $95,000 versus $21,000. That's a $74,000 gap just in direct costs. But that's not even the interesting part. The interesting part is what Zen does with the $650 a month that he is not sending to BMW Financial Services. Zen takes that $650 and puts it into an SP 500 index fund. Month after month, January through December. For 10 years. At the SP 500's historical average return of roughly 10% annually. And I want to be clear, that is not guaranteed, but it has been the trend for nearly a century. That $650 a month becomes approximately $130,000. So let me sum this up. Nico spent $95,000 to drive nice cars for 10 years. At the end, he has nothing but memories and a lease renewal notice. Zen spent $21,000 to drive a Camry for 10 years. At the end, he has a car worth maybe $4,000 and an investment account worth $130,000. The net worth gap after 1 decade, roughly $170,000. From one decision. repeated every month for 120 months. And here is the thing that really gets me after 40 years in this business. Nobody tells Nico this. Nobody sits him down at age 28. Before he signs his first lease and shows him what that payment is actually costing him in future wealth. The car salesman, who drives a paid-off Toyota, by the way, I have met enough of them. To know the car salesman is not going to run compound interest calculations for you. The bank that approves the lease is not going to warn you that this one decision is a six-figure swing in your net worth. The entire system is set up to make leasing feel normal, expected, even smart. Why tie up your cash in a depreciating asset? They say lease it and invest the difference. It sounds sophisticated. It sounds like what wealthy people do, but I am going to tell you what actually wealthy people do. And it is going to surprise you. Ramsey Solutions conducted a national study of millionaires, over 10,000 millionaires surveyed. This is the largest study of its kind ever done in America. And they asked a very simple question: what car do you drive? The number one brand was Toyota, not BMW, not Mercedes, not Lexus, not Tesla. Toyota, Honda, and Ford rounded out the top three. The vast majority of these millionaires drove used cars. They paid cash. And over 80% of them have never purchased a brand new vehicle in their lives. Think about what that means. The people who can afford any car on the lot. The people who could walk into a dealership tomorrow and write a check for a six-figure vehicle without flinching, are choosing to drive the same cars that college students and retirees drive, and they are doing it on purpose. This is not an accident. This is not a coincidence. This is cause and effect. The reason these people are millionaires is not in spite of their car choice. It is partially because of their car choice. Every dollar they did not send to a lease payment went somewhere else: an index fund, a rental property, a business, a brokerage account. And those dollars compounded. Year after year, decade after decade. I want to pause here and tell you about someone I knew personally. Early in my career, I had two clients who worked at the company. Same job title, they even lived 3 blocks from each other. Every 3 years, one of them, let's call him the Nico of this story, would show up in a new car, BMW. Then Audi. Then back to BMW. The other guy drove a Honda Accord he bought, used in 1994, and kept for 17 years. 17 years. I watched this play out over the full arc of their careers. They both earned roughly the same money over 30 years. Adjusting for promotions and bonuses their lifetime. W-2 earnings were within $50,000 of each other. Practically identical. The BMW guy retired at 67 with about $400,000 in his 401k and a small pension. Hez, not starving. But he called me 6 months into retirement, asking if he should get a part-time job to stay busy. He wasn't staying busy. He was nervous about his burn rate. The Honda Accord guy retired at 61 with just under $2.4 million. He calls me once a year to ask whether he can afford to take his grandkids to Europe again. He can. He always can. The car was not the only difference between these two men. But I promise you, when I looked at their spending over 3 decades, the car was the single largest recurring wealth leak in the BMW guy's financial life. Bigger than restaurants. Bigger than vacations. Bigger than anything else. $600 a month, then $700, then $800. Flowing out the door every month for 30 years, never to return. And this is where the psychology gets interesting. Because society tells you the opposite of what is true. The car industry spends roughly $18 billion a year on advertising in the United States. $18 billion. All of it designed to do one thing: convince you that your car is a reflection of your worth, your status, your identity, that you deserve the upgrade, that you have earned it, that the people in your life will respect you more when you pull up in something new. And here is the uncomfortable truth that nobody in that $18 billion ad budget wants you to know. After about 6 months, the new car feeling disappears completely. The smell fades. The seats get a coffee stain. The new car becomes just your car, except now it comes with a payment that shows up on the first of every month like clockwork. And that payment doesn't care if you got a raise. It doesn't care if your kid needed braces. It doesn't care if your water heater just exploded. The payment just keeps coming. Meanwhile, your neighbor with the 10-year-old Camry has no payment, hasn't had one in years. And every month that goes by, the gap between your net worth and his gets wider. You are literally paying money to fall behind. Let me show you what this looks like year by year, because the timeline is where the lesson really sinks in year one. Nico leases his first BMW. The payment is $650. He feels amazing. His coworkers compliment the car. His Instagram gets more likes. Zen's Camry hits 100,000 miles. Nobody compliments it. Nobody even notices it. Year 3. Nico's lease is up. He rolls into a new BMW. The payment is now $680, inflation higher money factor. Whatever the dealer says. He signs the paperwork in 45 minutes and drives off the lot. It feels good again. For about 4 months, Zen's Camry hits 115,000 miles. He changes the oil. He keeps driving. Year 5. Nico has spent roughly $48,000 on lease payments. He owns nothing. Zen's Camry has 130,000 miles. He has spent about $15,000 total on the car, including purchase price and maintenance. And he has been investing $650 a month into an index fund for 5 years. That account is now worth about $50,000. The Camry is still worth maybe $6,000 year 7. Nico is on his third BMW. The payments have crept up to over $700. His total lease spending is approaching $70,000. He has started to feel something he can't quite name, a low-level financial anxiety that hums in the background even when things are going well. Zen's Camry has 145,000 miles. His investment account is approaching $90,000. He has started to notice something too. When he wakes up on Saturday mornings, he doesn't think about money. Not at all. The hum is gone. Year 10. The Gap Nico has spent over $95,000 on car leases. His net worth impact, what he could have had if he had invested. That money, instead, is about $170,000 in the hole. He is 42 years old. He has nice memories of nice cars. He cannot retire on memories. Zen's Camry finally hits 160,000 miles. He might sell it. He might not. He doesn't think about it much. His investment account, the one funded entirely by the car payment he didn't have, is now worth over $130,000. He is the same age as Nico. Same neighborhood. Same income, $170,000 ahead. And the gap is accelerating. Now here is where I want to introduce you to 2 more people, because I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, Thomas, I don't want to drive a 15-year-old Camry. I don't want to feel like I'm falling behind. I don't want my dates or my clients or my in-laws to think I'm struggling. And I want to introduce you to Justin and Kimberly. Justin and Kimberly are 34. They earn about $115,000 together. They drive a 2019 Honda CR-V with 112,000 miles on it. They bought it used in 2022 for $22,000 with a small loan they paid off in 18 months. The car is not exciting. Nobody has ever complimented it. Their friends drive nicer cars. Their neighbors drive nicer cars. But Justin and Kimberly have no car payment, and they are putting $700 a month into a brokerage account. At 10% over 20 years, that $700 a month becomes just over $500,000. $500,000 from a Honda CR-V. You do not have to drive a 15-year-old beater to win this game. You just have to stop paying for other people's perception of you. Buy something reasonable. Buy it used. Pay it off as fast as you can. And then keep driving it long after the loan is gone. That is the formula. And if you want to see what this looks like at the finish line, let me introduce you to Ezra and Lily. Ezra and Lily are 71 years old. They retired at 62 with just under $3 million. Ezra was a high school teacher. Lily was a nurse. Neither of them ever earned a 6-figure salary. Combined, they probably peaked at about $150,000 a year toward the end of their careers. Ezra drove the same Lexus ES for 17 years. He bought it used in 2003, when it was 4 years old. paid $23,000 cash and sold it in 2020 for $4,000. Lily drove a Honda Odyssey for 14 years. Same story, used cash drive it until the wheels fall off. I asked Ezra once we were having coffee after he retired. I asked him whether he ever felt embarrassed driving that old Lexus when his colleagues were pulling up in brand new cars every few years. He laughed. He said, "Thomas, I retired at 62. My colleagues are still working at 70. Nobody at the country club has ever asked me what car I drove in my 40s. But every single one of them has asked me how I retired so early. It is the most public financial decision most people make. And because it is so visible, the pressure to get it wrong is enormous. Your investment account is invisible. Nobody sees it. Nobody compliments it. Nobody asks you about it at parties. But your investment account is what buys your freedom. Your car buys you a fleeting feeling that lasts about 6 months and then turns into a monthly bill that lasts for years. I've spent 40 years watching people choose between these two things. Almost everyone chooses the car. Almost everyone. The people who choose the investment account, the ones driving the old Toyotas and Hondas and paid off CRVs. They are not the flashiest people in the room. They are not the ones handing out business cards with embossed logos, but they are the ones who 20 years later are sitting on a beach somewhere, while their neighbors are still refreshing Zillow to see if they can afford to downsize. Let me leave you with a number that I want you to really sit with. If you lease a new car every 3 years for 30 years, at an average payment of $650 a month, you will spend roughly $234,000 in lease payments over your lifetime. You will own nothing. And the opportunity cost, what that $650 a month would have become if invested at 10% over those same 30 years, is approximately $1.2 million. $1.2 million. That is the cost of looking rich. It is also the cost of never actually being rich. The man driving the 10-year-old Camry is not the one who is struggling. He is the one who did the math. He is the one who understood something that most people never figure out. The goal is not to look wealthy. The goal is to be wealthy. And those are two completely different things that require two completely different behaviors. My name is Thomas. I am not a financial advisor. This is just me telling you what I've seen. If this video made you look at your car differently, or your car payment differently, drop a comment below. I read every single one. And if you know someone who is about to walk into a dealership and sign a lease, they haven't run the math on, send them this video. The most expensive thing most people ever buy is the car they drive to impress people they don't even like. See you in the next one.